Olá, bom dia. Hello everybody. Ponceninho speaking. I haven't done a video where I sit down and talk to you a little bit for quite some time. You've been following my channel and you can tell that the videos have been mostly on the movements, of course, the practice and some clips of the classes. And I think from time to time it might be a good idea for me to just expand some of those ideas in this format and explain a little bit more about where we're going with the journey. I think we are in a very interesting time. I feel in my classes in London, my personal class, I feel a genuine enthusiasm from the students, but also a mature enthusiasm. And what I mean by that is, I think because my students now understand capoeira, they've been practicing for a very long time, and they have had many experiences with capoeira, not just in practice in my class, but also in the world of capoeira itself, and they practice regularly. For me, that's the main thing. I really do believe in that so much, that you have to have a place where you can have time to master your movements. We don't come to class just to learn something new all the time. We also need the time to take time to revisit things, to polish things. It's just an ongoing understanding, increasing the understanding of your practice, because there are so many elements to practice. We have the practice itself, the move, what you're doing, the mechanics of the movements, whichever content it's in that day. But then you have the things that goes inside the practitioners, anything from dealing with the well-being and sleeping and nutrition. So you have all these other things that will affect your practice. So from this outside world that begin before the class, to the steps themselves, to the challenge that come in a class, there's so much to master. Now I see this in a very optimistic way. Actually, not optimistic, but in an exciting way. It's not always about optimism, but it's very exciting to know that there is an art form that is beautiful and is constantly going to challenge me, and is constantly going to challenge me but also reward me. So that's one side of practice that is important. The other side that I feel has aided to my students' maturity is a combination of things. As I said, we are in a great time of practice, of understanding, where technology can help us to improve the quality of our training. So it's not just about amount of training, but the quality of training. It's really relevant. I wrote something yesterday that says deep practice will reward those who practice better. Because it's not just practicing deeply, practicing better as well. So we learn how to practice better. And I think we all come into that phase now where we're just above what I say the teenage years of a group. So you have a group when you start, it's in first stage, the infant stage, and then a little bit teenager, you have a little bit of lots of rebel things going on. And then when you mature more and people around you mature more, yes, things do settle in one way and they become exciting in another way, because now you have more of a clear mind and more of an assertive mind to know what you want, always with an open mind, of course, but you have more of an assertive mind. This is what I want. This is what I want for my work. This is what I want for me. This is the kind of experience that I want to provide to my students. So I feel that we are reaching a stage now where I call it's just after teenage, not very mature yet. We have a lot to go, but that stage where we're settling some things and increasing the challenge. My students report to me, even last class, they said they really enjoyed the class, and they said there is a different way that you are challenging us now. I'm not just challenging my students through repetition and amount of repetition. It's going a little bit deeper into the movement. Yes, you can say it's something about being very passionate, but I think it goes beyond that, just about being passionate. Yes, if you're passionate, that's amazing. But how are you going to craft your passion? How are you going to journal your experience? How are you going to, and even more as a teacher, how are you going to transfer from one person to a group of people? Now, of course, this is not just a one-way thing. I'm not saying that it's me transferring my wisdom, none of that. It is obviously a combination, and I'm feeding from the energy of the students. I'm working with what I have in the moment. I have some guidelines for the work, but every class hopefully feels very fresh. Now, before this starts to sound just an advertise for my class, that's not the point of today's video. It's just to go over some points about practice that I think a lot, and I certainly do in my personal practice. I'm in an exciting, if I may talk a little bit more about myself, I'm in an exciting time as well, because I have a little bit more time to practice now. I feel where I am in my career right now, I can devote a little bit more time to my personal practice, and that includes my students, of course. People come and train with me. When I say personal practice, I don't just mean me by myself, that as well, because there are things that if I don't have space and time to go over, I cannot even bring them to class. So I need to workshop ideas. I need to do my own research before they come to class. So as I said, exciting times, lots of positive changes. I think lots of really great changes in the world of capoeira, where again, there is a side to technology that can help us. So in those things that I'm thinking, I wrote a few things here. And a crucial concept of my work is what I say perception or visualization of the form. Okay, so the body cannot follow what the mind cannot see. Now, I took that phrase, it's not a literal quote, from a book about calligraphy. That's actually my favorite book. It's probably my favorite book of all. So it's a book by Michael So. He is a master of calligraphy in the style Spencerian, which is the style that I love, because he has this style here of calligraphy called Spencerian. I'm not selling the book, by the way. I'm just showing you because you will want to see what it is. What I love so much about this style is that it is cursive and is based in the movements of nature. Yeah, the philosophy of this style, it's all based in nature, in the movement of water, the movement of the roundness of the pebbles on the beach. It's absolutely beautiful. But there is a part in this book here, are the stuff that the masters speak in capoeira. You know, one thing that it has in my notes here, and I've always had in my notes, is study the masters of the past. And some of them really have laid the ground, the maps for us to navigate, so our road is not so random. I think one benefit of mentor, having your teacher, having your master, and of course all the knowledge around you as well, is that it can cut some randomness and can make something that you would have discovered by yourself take much longer. It just helps that process. So when I change these words to capoeira here, for me it's very similar. So perception and speed, they often quote, so here's the quote: "The hand cannot conceive what the mind cannot perceive." That's beautiful. The hand cannot conceive what the mind cannot perceive. So yeah, it's a philosophical approach that I love for capoeira so much. Now, it is also true that in capoeira, because of being a martial art, in a challenge sense, that there are many things that you don't necessarily have to study the form before you try to apply some of it, because you need the fresh experience in the moment, reflex, reaction to the other, and then that's where you start to draw the lines and understand, now I should do this, now I should do that, perhaps go that way when the kick comes this way. So, of course, there are many things in capoeira which is very much about testing, trial and error, né? Trial and error. But nevertheless, a crucial concept of my work is the perception and the visualization. I always speak about visualization of the form. The body cannot follow what the mind cannot see. To a certain extent, this is true in capoeira. And as I said, repeating now, but as I said, to another side of it, that's not so true, because the body can also understand things as it's trying. You need to draft the movement so many times. In other words, you don't have to have the clear mental picture before you try the movement. That's quite hard. However, if you are intermediate or more advanced, then I am definitely talking to you. I'm definitely telling you to spend time studying form. Studying the form also means to be inspired by the form, to see how the elbow is moving, the hand is moving, the feet is moving. Sometimes my students say to me, what's the next step for me? And a lot of times my answer is, you need to copy me more. Now that sounds a bit funny, right? Need to copy me more. There are many other people who say you should watch. But of course, if I am there, and I'm generalizing here, of course, in my group now, there are so many wonderful capoeiristas that have always been, but nevertheless, to copy me next to you and is to understand the way that I'm navigating, the way that I'm looking to find answers, to improve the fluidity of my movements. So the body cannot follow what the mind cannot see. Now this is for advanced, because then the mind will take a more important role in your next step rather than just a repetition of movements. The speed of the movements in our style should find what we call the cadencia. Now I know you've heard that word times, cadencia, the cadence. Now you might say, if you practice with me, you might say, but some classes you are incredibly slow, you're dragging the movements out, and other classes you are quite fast. Absolutely. Now again, departing from a point of what I do first, what I understand first, then this will branch out, and indeed we will challenge all of this. They're not rules, but let's call it rules for now. We will challenge these rules of practice. That's the point. We have to master them before we can break them. So to move in moderate speed is to bring the ultimate calibration of energy. Now, obviously that word ultimate is quite strong, but I feel that for intermediate students to understand what cadence is, and then from here, the student will be able to really tap in the energy, to calibrate your energy. But let me explain what I mean more about this. If you move too slow, the energy can drop. Again, this is if you're not conscious and if you haven't mastered that. If you move too slow, the energy can drop. If you move too fast, even more to the point, the heart rate increases, obviously. You can increase the heart rate. And why can that be an issue? Because we want to have times of fitness to increase the heart rate so we become fit capoeiristas. Nevertheless, in terms of studying the movement, remember this is about that deeper study of the movements of the form, then the relationship heart rate versus skills, that's where the student may benefit in finding the cadencia, okay? Because the student needs time to learn the form. So if you're having to deal with an accelerated heart rate and you have to deal with the fitness thing, for that particular practice of form understanding, it may not be the best. Now, obviously, there are some movements that will require a faster takeoff or fast approach. That's different. But I develop another, what I call the rule of three, which is form, flow, fitness. 3 Fs. I should be called the rule of 3 Fs. Form, flow, fitness. Now, fitness is last because you study the form, you add the flow to the form, and that's where the cadencia will come, that's where the paced movement will come, and then you can branch out to other areas, one of which will be, can I use these movements to help my body to become really fit? And that, guys, is not a trivial part of my practice. For me, it's vital that the body is fit. Okay, now, does that mean that someone who starts capoeira now perhaps haven't had many years of physical training? Absolutely not. You enjoy every process of the journey, and you can play capoeira. Capoeira does not segregate level of fitness. But if you're devoting your practice, if you're someone who practices very regularly, then of course we also aim to increase. Why not? I mean, not even why not. We should increase the level of fitness. So we can always feel that the movements themselves, it becomes like a snowball effect. The movement themselves help you to increase your fitness. And by being a little bit more fit, you can then perform the movements better. And then that becomes a cycle, a circle, okay? So I wanted to just send this message to you guys, because practice is something that it's so beautiful and it gives us so much joy. So surely part of what is to turn up to class, whether is 1 day a week, and some people treat as, it's your local capoeira school. It's and that's how I see it. It's a local capoeira school. We go there to have fun. We go there to enjoy, to play, to sing. But after many years of practice, you benefit a lot more by having moments like this one, where you may be a little bit more inspired by stepping out of the physicality and studying the form, watching the form, closing your eyes, visualizing the movement. It can be a 5 minutes thing. Say 5 minutes to 30 minutes. 30 minutes is hardcore. But what I do, I'll give you a tip. It might not work for everybody, because I find it very easy to fall asleep when I close my eyes and I imagine movements. I know some people said that they don't, that wakes them up, they want to do the move. And when at night time I close my eyes and I just imagine the movements, I imagine doing the movements effortless. And I feel that when I wake up, it's sort of like I slept on that. I slept on the idea of doing the movements in effortless, because obviously in your mind, you can do whatever you want, okay? So we're sharpening the mind as well as the body. Have a wonderful day, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if this is the kind of thing that you also want to hear more. And if it is, I'll be happy to share more of my notes with you. Ashe.